The clock struck 6 in the evening in South Carolina. In an execution chamber, a 67-year-old man with a red target marked on his chest was seconds away from death. His last words were not of fear nor of hatred. He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not try to justify himself. His words were a call, a message no one expected. An eye for an eye was used as justification to condemn me, but we no longer live under Old Testament law. Minutes earlier, he had received his last meal, a special request, not because of the menu, but because of its meaning. What happened next became part of U.S. history. This is the story of Brad Sigmon, the first person executed by firing squad in over 15 years. To understand his execution, we must first talk about the crime that led him to death row. It was the year 2001 when Sigmon broke into his ex-girlfriend's house, filled with rage. Inside, he found her parents, David and Gladys Lark. What happened next was brutal. Using a baseball bat, he bludgeoned them to death. He gave them no chance to defend themselves. Then, he kidnapped his ex-girlfriend at gunpoint. He drove her away, but in a moment of distraction, she managed to escape. She ran for her life as he fired shots at her. Sigmon was captured, tried, and sentenced. The justice system decided he deserved the ultimate punishment: death. In South Carolina, a death row inmate has 3 options. 1. Lethal injection, but the state had no available drugs. 2. The electric chair, a method many consider inhumane. 3rd, firing squad, an option not used in the US for 15 years. Brad Sigmon chose the firing squad. Many questioned why. Some believed it was a form of protest. Others thought he simply wanted to avoid the electric chair. What is certain is that his execution became historic and at the center of a nationwide controversy. A day before his death, Sigmon made his last request. It wasn't lobster, nor a luxury steak. He asked for 3 buckets of KFC fried chicken, but not just for himself. He wanted to share them with other death row inmates. However, his request was denied. Instead, he was given his own meal tray: 4 pieces of fried chicken, mashed potatoes with gravy, green beans, biscuits, cheesecake, sweet tea. He ate in silence. He didn't complain. He simply accepted that his final act of generosity would never happen. On March 8, 2025, his final hour arrived. At 6 p.m., he was led to the execution chamber. He was strapped to a chair with a basin placed underneath to collect the blood. He was given the chance to say his final words. An eye for an eye was used as justification to condemn me, but we no longer live under Old Testament law. We now live under the New Testament. After speaking, a hood was placed over his head. Behind bulletproof glass, his attorney, the victim's family members, and journalists watched. At 6:01 p.m., a curtain opened. 3 men, hidden from view, raised their rifles. No warning, no countdown. At 6:05 p.m., they fired simultaneously. Witnesses saw his chest rise and fall with the impact. Within seconds, he stopped breathing. At 6:08 p.m., a doctor declared him dead. Sigmon's execution was not just a historic event. It also ignited a heated debate. Outside the prison, protesters gathered with signs reading, "All life is precious," and "Thou shalt not kill." His attorney, Bo King, spoke after the execution. It is unbelievable that in 2025, South Carolina allowed such a bloody spectacle. King also insisted that his client had changed during his years in prison. Brad shared his meals with other inmates, formed friendships, and showed remorse. He was not the same man who committed that crime, but for the victim's family, the execution meant justice. One family member of David and Gladys Lark, who witnessed the execution, said, "After all these years, justice has finally been served for my parents." Brad Sigmon was a brutal murderer, but he was also a man who spent over 2 decades waiting to die. His last meal showed a small act of humanity that he was not allowed to fulfill. His last words were a plea to end the death penalty, and his execution, more than a punishment, felt like a state-sanctioned act of vengeance. So the question remains, was justice served, or was another unnecessary execution carried out?